Alright, people, I'm here. I'm not dead. Sorry about that. Um, when I said this is going to be a casual stream, I was quite casual about turning up. So, yes, here we are on the 100k casual Ask Me Anything stream. By the way, new milestone, new look, new glasses. Who this? Hi everyone. I'm glad you could make it. It's been an awkward day to say the least. Got some bad news on the family side, which we'll save for a different time. And I was busy answering some stuff from the channel fan mail, I guess. We have someone from Aruba who was setting up an archery activity. So I was doing a whole comprehensive list of things to do. I completely forgot what time it was. In fairness, I actually thought I should set the stream to 9:30 p.m. or whatever time it is you are. So my apologies. That said, I think a lot more people are actually in the chat now that we've been waiting. Because normally it takes around half an hour for people to turn up anyway. So maybe this was quite strategic. By the way, Jensen, you said this last time, so I'm not going to say your name in game. Hi everyone, glad you can join me today. This is the celebratory 100k live stream. I know some streamers or some YouTubers make a point about like having a live stream to wait for the 100k. I didn't bother. I just went to sleep and finally got to the 100k mark, and that's official now. I think some of the metrics, and depending on how backlogged it is and which system you use, might count differently. But I think now we're definitely in the 100k zone. So that's where we are. We've come a long way since we started the channel years ago, and there's been a lot that's happened in between, our first video and our last, well, now really. There's something really significant about the milestone that we've reached. Just because it's I didn't expect to get this far. I think who every YouTuber who does YouTube, every YouTube creator starts in a very modest way. Like we count to our first 100 subscribers, and we have this huge like, wow, man, 100 subscribers. I feel so special when people recognize me. And then you get to your first 1,000 subscribers, and you're like, well, wait, 1,000 subscribers, I can actually make something from this. 1,000 people are watching me, and you get to 10,000 subscribers, and that's amazing. It's unbelievable. It's like this number you've never seen before. Way too many zeros there. And it's hard to imagine like anything past 100,000, because most people don't get to the point. Even for the archery channels, like very few archery channels reach past 1,000. So 10,000 is like the cap. We have the forerunners, the people who did archery before me on YouTube, and of them, perhaps only Grizzly Jim reached 10,000. Jeff Kavanagh has 10,000 plus now as well. So it's a relatively small number of people who get past the 10,000 point in archery, of course. In other areas, of course, 10,000 isn't much at all, but 100,000 is. The only, I guess, archer who's got more than 10,000 or 100,000 would be, I guess, Lars Andersen, by virtue of going viral. So to me, it's perhaps more of a testament to what we can do for archery, for the community in general. I mean, this 100,000 wasn't on the back of e-begging or spamming. In fact, apart from very early videos where I did what YouTubers do and say like, subscribe, and so on, I stopped doing that. I think some of you will notice that in my videos I don't remind people to subscribe. I might ask people to comment for the sake of like talking about a topic or having a debate, but I don't do the YouTube things. I don't have a Patreon. I don't do affiliate marketing. I don't remind people to hit the bell icon, because I don't care. I mean, people get on my back about, oh, if you want more views, you should do this. Yeah, that's true. If I want to do this as a career and get people to, donate to my Patreon and so on, whatever, and that is good practice for someone doing YouTube seriously as a career or as a part-time thing. YouTube has always been a hobby. I have a full-time job, so I don't really need to, get into the whole Patreon thing. I'm not doing this for popularity. This started as a passion project. I mean, it really started, 7 years ago as a thing for school. People back then it was all about the followers or the subs, how many Facebook friends you like. This is before Facebook was a business thing, and nowadays it's all about Instagram followers or Twitch subscribers. But like YouTube was a thing back then, and I thought, well, what would it take to make it on YouTube? Like, what could I do to have a successful channel? And for those who haven't seen my last few live streams, I've gone through some of the milestones. I did things like blogs and merchandise reviews, video games, let's plays. War Thunder was a big part there, and now it's mostly just archery. So that's kind of like my end game. The 100K milestone was my end game goal. It's kind of, the campaign requirements to finish the game. So to me, I've effectively completed the YouTube game. Anything after this is just, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I don't really plan to go for the million. I mean, that's phenomenal. Like, a million is for a niche interest or a niche sport. That's pretty big deal. And even for the history side, like, how many history channels actually have 1 million+ subscribers? So that's something we'll play around with. I'm not going to really chase the big number, but as you get bigger, it gets easier to steamroll. So that's where we're at. I mean, I'll be looking at some different things to do on the channel, as well as covering the archery stuff we love and that all love and hate. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's not something, like I said, that I really chased. But as we got closer to it, like after 10,000, like, yeah, 10,000, 50,000, yeah, but the 100,000 was where I was really going to. And after that, it's like, well, I couldn't really push it any faster. Didn't really bother me. That's hovering on 99,000 because I knew that with the trends and the analytics, it was going to reach 100,000 sooner rather than later. For those who are wondering, according to Social Blade, I will reach the 1 million mark in 4 years' time. So I might get that other play button by then. Let's get some quick questions in chat, and then we'll talk through some of the prepared questions. There was some stuff there. I know some of you are waiting and already commented in chat right now, so thank you for turning up. We've got a donation, a super chat from Accubow, or Asinom2127. You want to buy an Accubow? Do you recommend for training? I've got one. I actually haven't reviewed it yet. The Accubow is a very interesting tool. There used to be a Kickstarter project. For those who don't know, I'll actually show you what it is. So that's one thing I haven't reviewed. I haven't really used it a lot, but I have given it out to many people who have used it for a very good purpose. So let me just bring it up. The Accubow has some really good things going about it. There are a couple of things here. Let's grab... yeah, well, I'll just show the Google search, I guess. So this is the Accubow. Now, the Accubow is basically a fiberglass, or I don't know, carbon fiber frame with a latex band. Now, what the Accubow is very good at doing is that it allows you to adjust the tension on the latex band. You can go from, I think, 10 pounds to, I think, 70 pounds, maybe more. So it's a very versatile training tool because rather than having a stretching band, which, is a set draw weight or tension, this one is an adjustable band. In addition, it also allows you to hold it like a bow. So it's not a stretching band, it's a bow shape, so you have the familiarity with the bow shape. It also has a laser, which allows you to practice holding exercises and stability, as well as a mount for a stabilizer. So you could effectively set this up very much like your bow. There's also, and this is the real kicker here, there's also been a VR training thing released. Not sure what it is, but you can mount a program on your cell phone and put it on the bow, and you can actually train and shoot with the Accubow. I'm not familiar with that, but there is software which supports the use of this bow. Now, like I said, I will review it at some point, but Would I recommend this as a training device? There are a couple of things which make this a good device. One is the adjustable draw weight. It goes from a low poundage to high poundage, which means that you can work up the draw weights. This is actually a big problem with a lot of training devices because you have to work within a set parameter. You can easily work around this. In fact, I've got a couple of bands here. Things like the Bow Trainer, the Saunders Power Pull are very useful, but this is easily adjustable. So if you want to go from 40 pound to 50 pound, you can use the Accubow to work your way up. And if you go from 50 pound to 60 pound, you can also work your way up. So it's quite adjustable, lots of flexibility for someone using it to train with. Again, the extra tools like the stabilizer mounts and the laser sight can be useful as well. Downsides on the Accubow, I feel the shape is more reminiscent of a compound bow. I find as a recurve shooter, it doesn't really match what a recurve bow looks and feels like, especially the grip. And it is an ambidextrous grip, so it's not right hand, left hand. It also feels a bit different, so it's really meant for weight training rather than actual practice. I think with practice, your actual bow will be a better choice. But of course, if you're using it as an enhancement for your training, the Accubow can work pretty well. Yeah, the main thing, the second negative is the cost. If you're only using this for a stretching band, it's way overpriced. You really need to be using the Accubow as a regular part of your training because it is very expensive. It has the benefit of adjustability, and the reason why I say I'd like it because I have given this to people who have been going through rehabilitation. They've gone through injuries with their shoulders and trying to work their way up to a high draw weight, and the Accubow allows it to be drawn and safely dry fired if necessary. So it is a pretty good tool if you use it regularly. If it's just a stretching band, it's way overpriced. So think about what you're using for and how serious you're going to include it in your training regimen. So that was the answer for Asinom 2127. If you really want to dry fire, I wouldn't get the Accubow to dry fire. It's loud and obnoxious. If you can imagine like a latex band slapping into a plastic stop, it's loud. And it is loud. I would not recommend it for dry fire practice. It's something you can use it for. I just wouldn't use it for that reason. If I do use the Accubow for regular training, it would be for conditioning rather than for dry fire practice. Fantastic question, though. Again, like I said, when I get time, I will do a more serious review on the Accubow. Funny enough, I did ask Accubow for a review sample. They didn't give it to me, so I bought my own. This is back when I was a much smaller channel, so didn't have the street cred just yet. Got a lot of questions in chat, by the way, so I'll try and catch up when I can. By the way, tag my name, like tag NUSensei, so I can see it highlighted on my screen. I've got quite a few things there. And like, this is the Ask Me Anything, so this isn't just archery only. In fact, I probably favor more than non-archery stuff to do a few things. That guy, War Thunder vehicle reviews. This is a very big question which a lot of people are asking me. I'm going to do a separate video to kind of clarify what's happening, but I'm not doing War Thunder anymore. By and large, War Thunder has... I've finished the game, like I finished playing it. I've got every tank in the game, apart from the new Italian tanks. But War Thunder, gaming in general, War Thunder was there to kill time when I wasn't making archery videos, and I could release stuff on a regular schedule and basically practice things like editing and microphone work and so on. I'm finished with that now, and I don't plan to do any more War Thunder videos. It's not worth it. For one, realistic is the battle mode which most people prefer. I know the majority play arcade, but people watch videos for realistic, and just the amount of people who get so upset that people actually enjoy arcade, what's the point, right? People actually go out of the way to watch my videos, dislike it, criticize it for playing arcade, And what's the point? Okay, I don't enjoy realistic. I don't enjoy the game anymore, so I'm not going to play it anymore. There's no point in getting an argument each time I publish an arcade video. I don't know why people do this. All right, this is a strange community we live in, where you don't have to watch an arcade review, and it's very obvious from the first word that it's an arcade review. Yet people watch it and get upset about it. So I'm not going to do it. It's not worth my time. I'm not going to stress about people trolling me on the War Thunder reviews. Blame the community if you want, but clearly it's a toxic, elitist community, and it's a dismal place to be as a arcade review, I guess. So I've got better things to do than to piss off elitists on War Thunder. If you want to be a realistic badass guy, join the army, drive a real tank. Don't troll around on YouTube videos because that's stupid. Where were we? That's the reason why I'm not doing War Thunder. So that's kind of, yeah, it's been too many years of War Thunder, and I want to play other games. I used to enjoy gaming a lot when I didn't cover it, and that's why I don't do Let's Plays anymore. It's tempting as it is, and there's just really no reason to cover games on the channel, especially now there's Twitch. Most people watch Twitch streamers. That's the real pool now, and that's not a lifestyle I want. If I play games, I want to enjoy it. I don't want to make a job out of it or that. I know a lot of people watching this, people, my students, for example, at least one of you at times is watching. Like, it's a dream. It's a dream to play games to get money for it, and honestly, it's not. It's not the life you think it is. Like, you really have to put in full time work and effort to be the right personality, the right attraction for gaming. I'm a bit too serious for it. I've got better things to do. So gaming for income, it's work, all right. And I don't think it's something I would enjoy. I used to play World of Tanks. That's why I moved to War Thunder. World of Tanks I enjoyed when it came out, and it was the only tank game. The reason why I don't like World of Tanks is hit points. I couldn't find myself enjoying a game that is arcadey as World of Tanks. War Thunder was more the balance between arcadey and realistic damage system. That was what appealed to me. Let's see. Cinderella shoe fit perfectly. Why did it slip off? It depends on which version of story you're talking about, right? It wasn't a glass slipper that she wore in the original version, and the ugly stepsisters had to cut off their toes and their heels to fit into the shoe. So not exactly what you think it is. What fletching jig do I use? I use the dead cut Nexus. I've got a review on my channel. That's what I use. I don't do a lot of fletching, but that's what I have, and that's a very functional jig. What's a real name? And everyone is David Nguyen. I think everyone knows it by now. Shooting outdoors in winter is dangerous? No. Bows are actually quite resilient. I'm not sure. Using a Yaoist, that's designed to be shot in any condition, really. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about shooting your bow, that bow in cold weather. A modern bow is much more resilient. Really, the bows you need to be careful of with in terms of maintenance and durability are traditional made bows. So wooden bows or wooden laminate bows can be more susceptible to damage in extreme weather, especially in very hot weather. You might find the limbs in the bow, it delaminates because the extreme heat melts the glue. The other thing, again, to the traditional handmade bows, again, use glues which might be not water soluble. That's probably more for the really old-fashioned horse bows, because nowadays we use synthetic glues. But yeah, the glue can break apart under extreme heat rather than extreme cold, so that can cause it to split apart and explode. That's what you need to be careful of. What do I think of the polar vortex? It's kind of cool, I guess. I didn't really think about it. So we don't have polar vortices here, which is the plural of vortex. But yeah, I knew that. So yeah, here we have extreme hot weather. It's like 40 degrees today down in Melbourne. It's also the Victorian leg of the match play, which I didn't participate in, thankfully, because I would have died there. But respect for those who actually did make it. Let's see. Okay, I'm just trying to go through questions here. Keep on asking, guys. If I missed your question before, feel free to ask it again, and I'll cover it. There's some interesting questions I saw before, but I'm catching up on the feed here. Justin Valerio, I hope for more great content. You will get more content. Do Hoyt reviews. Main reason I do Hoyt reviews is most people in my club don't use Hoyts. If Hoyt sends me a bow, sure, I'll review it. But at the moment, like I don't know anyone who uses a Hoyt at my club. I know a few people offered to lend me their Hoyt factors and Hoyt epics. That'd be cool too, I guess. But I only really want to get my hands on. Funny enough, again, the companies which are mostly chasing me down are companies from China mostly, which makes a lot of sense. And traditional companies. I recently got contacted by Harvey Bows, I think, Harvey Archery. I might be looking at one of their custom traditional bows, and hopefully I might get some stuff. I've got two. I've got a Korean bow coming in and a Chinese bow, a Ming bow coming in. I bought them, but maybe I might cover more Asiatic bows on my channel. I know Armin Hermer is mostly known for his Eastern style archery reviews, but who knows? Maybe I might do some more myself. Um, what else is there? My favorite kind of weather, Thomas. I'm more of a cold weather person. I've always been of the theory that if it's cold, you always put in more clothing. If it's warm, you're basically stuffed. So I know a lot of people who live in America right now are like, begging for hot weather. You can, I mean, when you live in hot weather, it's not pleasant. So it's one of the strangest things is like people say, oh, well, why don't you shoot your hot weather? It's overrated, guys. I know some people like when it's really cold, you want warmer weather. When it's really hot, you want cooler weather. So I'm more of an autumn person. Autumn, maybe spring, minus the hay fever. So more of a warm weather, cool weather. So the mild climates are more for me. Any advice for someone going to first tournament? Just shoot the way you normally shoot. Don't worry about score. Don't try to exceed what you normally do because it's not about miracles and shooting 10 times speeding what you normally do. You might shoot worse because you're not used to the intensity of the competition. So don't be alarmed if you don't shoot as well as you normally do, but remind yourself that it's really a big practice session. So the way you shoot in your competition is more or less the way you shoot in practice. High-end arrow rest review. I mean, I haven't yet done an arrow rest video. I had it planned like a long time ago. I've still got the arrow rest lying around. So I will eventually cover a comparison. Not sure if I would review an arrow rest, but I'll compare the arrow rest so that way you know what you're getting for your money. That's a good idea. I've got that already planned there. What kind of bow do you use as a hunter? I'm not a hunter, so I can't really answer the question. Similarly, people ask me like, what kind of gun would I use? I mean, I used to really like reading about firearms. We don't have firearms openly in Australia. It's very heavily regulated. But I used to read a lot about like World War II firearms and modern firearms. But since I don't have one, I can't really pick one. And likewise, as a hunter, I'm not a hunter. Therefore, I wouldn't say what I would use as a hunter because I'm not a hunter. Yeah, probably compound. Honestly, if I want to hit something, I shoot compound. But I don't really have a reason to pick a bow for hunting specifically. A lot of Asiatic archers do have a long draw, just for Adam Forbes. So the thing with the long draw points and the floating anchors is that there actually is an anchor point. A lot of archers use, for example, the feathers touching their cheek as a reference point. But a lot of the styles really reinforce shoulder alignment as the key. So you draw to your maximum allowable length for your shoulder, and you can sight pretty consistently. So it's not floating in the sense where it's in the middle of the air and you're doing like weird wavering stuff and there's no consistency. A full draw with the Asiatic draw, depending on exactly which style you do, tend to be basically your full shoulder alignment. So when your shoulders come to line, that's basically your draw length and your anchor. In addition, if you properly set up your arrows, the tip of the arrow will basically touch the tip of your thumb here. So you have what is basically a draw length check, like a clicker. So the moment you touch the metal of the arrow tip, you know the right length. So it's actually not hard to achieve a correct full draw consistently if you have the correct technique and the correct arrows. If you don't have the correct arrows, then that's a little harder, but it's actually not a huge disadvantage for the Asiatic draws. And you can be quite accurate if you shoot with the correct setup. Don't play any instruments. I used to play some piano, self-taught, not very good. But I used to play a few things. I have piano videos on my channel, so if you want to watch some of the old stuff, then look up piano on my channel and you'll find some old pieces. Can I be good without an anchor point? Thumb draw behind the ear. I mean, like we said before, like you don't need an anchor point in the same sense as a Mediterranean anchor point, where you have like a cheek point or a jaw point. But if you shoot with a thumb draw, like I said before, you do have an anchor point. If you're shooting like instinctively without an anchor point, then the answer is no. And this might be controversial, but no, you can't be as accurate if you don't use a consistent reference point. People who actually aim when shooting thumb draw have reference points. People who are just shooting instinctively can hit things, but not as precisely and not as consistently as someone who aims their shots. So the answer is you can be good, yes. Can you be great? Not necessarily. Alright, so upwards a bit here. My favorite period in history. I used to be a World War II buff. So that probably is. I mean, when I was in school, the medieval times would be my favorite. When I was going through university, I probably liked the ancient Rome a lot more. I was really big into a series called what was it? It was a book called The First Man in Rome by Colin McCullough. There's a series. I can't remember what the series was called, but it's a series, and the first book was The First Man in Rome. And that really got me. I mean, I always liked ancient Rome from Asterix, but in terms of like really reading about it, like I knew all the memes and all the stereotypes of Rome, but the First Man in Rome introduced me to the Roman Republic. So it focused on Gaius Marius and the Marian reforms in a fictionalized way. But that was what really got me into ancient Rome and I guess the deeper history. There's pop history, which is popular culture and popular history, and then there's like other history. So that got me as a gateway into looking at beyond Julius Caesar and looking at proper Roman study, which I didn't do unfortunately in university. In university, I did medieval history. I did the Da Vinci Code, so Renaissance, I guess. We looked at Vietnam War, American Civil War, and we also studied World War II as well. So yeah, lots of history, but World War II was my favorite. Again, a lot of it rode on pop history, but pop history got me into big history or real history. So I wasn't so much brought up by pop culture. I mean, when I grew up, I was watching Saving Private Ryan, Medal of Honor, the series came out, it's a video game, and that got me to learn a lot more about real history rather than just looking at pop history. What time is it here? It's 10 p.m. here. Unfortunately, I've got a lot of work to do. I was planning on doing it from 9:30 to like 10:30 to 11:30 at most, no more than that. Um, I forgot that it was at 9 o'clock. In case you're wondering what I was doing, yeah, I was actually sorting out some emails from people in Aruba setting up archery programs. Also have some family emergencies happening at the moment, so but we'll save that for a different time. I make a point not to share personal life at work or personal life on the YouTube channel. There's a time and place for it, and there are the right people to talk to. So this isn't the right forum and the right venue to vent or to elucidate more on that. Um, Thomas had a question much earlier, which I wanted to answer. My biggest fear. Um, that question hits hard right now because what's happening in the family right now. So I guess I will bridge a couple of things. I'm not someone who has like petty fears, like the fear of the dark or fear of spiders. I mean, I'm not that sort of fear. The fears that I would have, and just to be perfectly honest here, would be, I guess the thing I'm most afraid of is not doing something worthwhile of my life. Um, and I said serious talk now, real talk, right? I'm afraid of not getting some of my life. That's why doing things like the channel, for example, is a way for me to produce something worthwhile that I can prove that I have something to show for. This is why I used to be a very big gamer. I still am a gamer, but not as big as I used to be. I used to play a lot of like online games, World of Tanks, Dota, or League of Legends. But the things with these is that like there's nothing to show for it. Like you can't really take your credentials and your platinum rating League of Legends and show off and get a girlfriend and get a job. It's not something that's productive that contributes something to society. And I know entertainment is entertainment. People should be allowed to have fun, but when you do this like every weekend, every week, or you play some MMORPG, we used to play Guild Wars a lot, for example, that sort of thing, it doesn't lead to something long term and productive. And not everything in life has to be work or has to be focused, but I want to have something to show for my time on this planet. And again, this is a bit grim and dark, but we all die at some point. It might be tomorrow, it might be in 50 years, who knows? But by the time I go, I want to have something to show for it. Best thing about with the channel was that this will be around long after I'm gone. So for how many decades or centuries, people will still do archery for, then it still will be here. And I'll make as much as I can while I can. But I want to have something to show for it. So the thing I'm most afraid of is not having it's not having something to show for the time that I've been given on this planet. Being a little metaphysical here, I'm not religious, I'm not spiritual, but I want to have something to show for it. So if I'm a teacher, I can teach thousands of people in my lifetime as a multiplier. So people will live their lives with the experience and wisdom that I can share with them. And that's why people make stuff on YouTube to teach people, so that people can learn from all these endeavors. And the reason I say this is my family is a broken family, but my parents have been through a lot. And my parents came from post-war Vietnam. I mean, people talk about the Vietnam War as especially in America, talk about the Vietnam War as the war over there. There are memes about it, but for the people who went through the diaspora, having fled the regime, and I was born in Australia, thankfully, but my parents lived in the regime. They lost a lot of things. My father used to be very wealthy, but he lost all his possessions from the government, and he fled as a refugee. My mum used to support women in Vietnam. She set up a factory, for textiles, and she recruited people who were trying to get work, and she would help them flee the country. And she's been offered to, many people have offered to give her, sanctuary overseas, but she moved to Australia with my family. But I've had family on both sides of the war. My grandfather on my mother's side, my great grandfather, no, my grandfather. Yeah, my grandfather was in the military. He actually was a collaborator with the CIA, and he was killed. He was taken away for re-education and disappeared after the war. So the family suffered a lot. Half my family is in America. Most of my family is here. Well, actually, no. I've got like one aunt here, my mother and my father, but the family is very broken and fragmented. And like considering what they've been through, like I feel that if I'm not doing something worthwhile with my life, then that's a waste. Considering how much my parents have suffered, considering how much they've been through, like anything else is a waste. Like the emergency in the family right now is my brother's in hospital, and he's had a very rough life himself, but he had a psychotic breakdown a few weeks ago. And for a long time, for all my life, I didn't want to be like my brother. I mean, my brother lived a life. He had fun, he had a job, he bought things, and now he's a broken person now. And yeah, I just feel really bad for my parents because they didn't deserve this. In our culture, it is our responsibility as children to look after our parents. They look after us when we were young, and it's our duty as children to look after our parents as a way to give them the respect that they deserve. And to see my brother exploit this and then now need that help. And it's not his fault necessarily, but a lot of things were his fault. My parents are still looking after him. Like, my parents are elderly, they won't be around for that much longer, and they deserve to retire and have, enjoy themselves, watch YouTube videos, watch conspiracy theories and all that, and just live the life that they deserve. And like, I really wanted my mum especially to have grandkids or something. So to see my brother like screw it up and ruin his life and the family life, he took our money, he borrowed a lot of money from the family, and I think a lot of us with families have someone, knows someone who does this, who isn't that grateful. That's what I don't want to be like, and that's kind of like where I'm coming from in terms of what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of being the sort of person who didn't make the most of their life. So there's a lot of pressure on that. It's not like I'm this wealthy crazy rich Asian who's entitled to having a car and buying everything. It's we did this the hard way, and one of the difficulties I have as a teacher is that I work with people, young people, who didn't go through that difficulty. I mean, I'm not as fortunate as some, but I'm more fortunate than others, so I can't complain. But when I look at young children, especially Vietnamese people who've been through similar things as their families, and they kind of reject this legacy. I mean, I understand that it's not inherent in all people, and you shouldn't judge the son or the daughter by what the father's gone through. But when you know they've gone through it, it really hurts to see people who don't make the most of what they have, who do treat education with low respect. And this is something which the parents didn't have. It's something which a lot of us take for granted, and even as teachers, a lot of teachers take things for granted. But this is something that's so empowering and so special that that's what I'm afraid of. Is when people think of it as, oh yeah, who needs to go to school? Who needs to go? But I'll just play games all day. That sort of thing hurts, because I used to be in that mindset as well. I didn't understand and appreciate it, because tough love is tough love, and people don't always understand that. And part of my choice to be a teacher was to be that bridge to help young people understand that they can be what they can be, and also to help the parents make it easier for the children, because we have a huge a gap in the generations, in language and culture. People growing up here in Australia have a much different life than what the parents had overseas. And that's something which it's something unique on from our position. In fact, one of the things that I plan to do on my channel is to do more of a blogging sort of channel, where I plan to cover these topics, cover things like the culture aspect, the fact that I'm Asian Australian. I've been teaching for a decade now. I don't look like a 10-year-old teacher, but I've been teaching for 10 years now. I want to share this experience to empower both people who are watching this, and parents, teachers, whatever. I want to cover more of this kind of life, the depth of life. Again, I want to cover things which other people can't or won't, and make something of my life. And that's my long answer to Thomas's question like half an hour ago. What am I most afraid of? I'm afraid of living my life, but not having anything to show for it. Whether it's a family, or something like a legacy. I don't know, but that's kind of the deep thing in my mind, and especially in light of recent events, that's kind of what kind of bothers me the most. Is can I live up to the legacy of my parents? My parents are great people. They're very low key. But they did great things in their lives. They lost opportunities, and my brother threw away opportunities, and now it's up to me to carry that legacy of my parents, and what my brother could have been. So it's a hard life. Talk about Asian expectations. It's a joke to many people, but I actually lived through this as a big legacy. Modern Rogue, as in I talk about Daniel, Modern Rogue, as in the two hosts of Modern Rogue, or the guy they brought in as the expert. So that's what I meant. If you're talking about the Modern Rogue channel themselves, their archery is it's interesting because they learn to use the Hunnic draw before they learned the Western draw, because they should be using a Mediterranean draw. But as far as I know, they haven't done archery, so they've only learned a thumb draw. So when they did their own archery videos, using the PVC pipes, I think they made a PVC pipe video because I remember they tagged me, or they put a link to my video on how to string a bow, so they used me as a reference, which is pretty cool. Yeah, their archery is like with many people who have been only trained for like one session. It's pretty typical of a plain fun video. What's good about them is that they don't claim to be good. What is kind of a bit of a pet peeve is that what they try to do in their archery videos, and I'm referring to, I think, the PVC bow. What they try to do, it's kind of undermined by the lack of proficiency. This is a similar thing with Corridor, or Corridor Digital, as it used to be called. So you have a lot of really, energetic people, really fun to watch, but they suck at archery. Not in a bad way, they're just not skilled at archery. So, things like, can you shoot through axe heads, or can you do the William Tell shot, for example. Um, a proficient archer can do this effortlessly, but the fun is in watching people who can't do archery suffer through it. And as an archer, it's kind of not as interesting or as fun. So that's what I think of Modern Rogue. I think Modern Rogue has a very interesting concept, but because they haven't been trained in archery for in more than 1 or 2 sessions, it's kind of self-defeating. You kind of know what will happen because they haven't been taught properly. And archery isn't something you can pick up and do right away, as most of you will know. So when people have this really fancy idea or an ambitious project, the actual making part might work out quite well. And so that's the fun part, is making your own bow or doing your own kind of fun test. And they have fun, no doubt about that. And they should be allowed to have fun. But what is quite fascinating is just simply that they're not very good at shooting. So no matter what test they do or what experiment they do, if they can't actually do it, then it kind of defeats the purpose. At best, they should find someone who can do it. But of course, it's their channel, so that's where it's a little weird. But I think that they do a fun set of videos. It's more of an interesting rather than you can't really learn much from it. And as long as the channels know where they are in terms of what they can teach and what they don't know, as long as they're clear on that, then that's fine. And as long as they're open to learning and getting feedback and making sure people get the right information, then there's nothing wrong with being a popular channel. What is more harmful is when people who have a certain facade or an illusion of authority or knowledge present information as fact, and they don't accept the feedback or get challenged by other people, because you now have millions of gullible viewers who take after pop history or pop culture and think they know more than anything else. Matty Beeb, you've been asking this for like the last half an hour. Is nylon a good string material? Not really. Nylon's too stretchy. It's really not a good material for bows. Dacron is the minimum. Dacron is the minimum for traditional bows these days, but a lot of traditional bows use fast flight materials. So a lot of Korean bows today are like fiberglass. They use fast flight strings, so you don't really need a nylon bowstring. You can use it, but you don't really need to use nylon. It isn't the best choice from my experience, what little there is. I know people just ask me questions. I'm going through as much as I can. So, let's see. Can I do a complete guide on how to shoot horse bows? I'm planning that actually. I'm planning to do a set of 5-minute videos. There's a meme, there's a joke going around where, it only takes 5 minutes to look up how to use a bow. Of course, it takes more than 5 minutes. But I plan to do a 5-minute video how to shoot a Western bow and how to shoot thumb draw in 5 minutes. This is a very basic primer. Kind of doing what Howcast should have done, but with a proper instruction. Big Cat, what do I think of Lars Andersen? I think someone's gonna ask me that. I thought that someone would ask me that. And I think after about 10 videos, something with Lars Andersen, my views are pretty clear. Look, I can't discredit Lars Andersen for his skill. So what he does is exceptional. He's an excellent shooter. He definitely has very creative ideas, and he's very inventive in terms of what he can do. What hurts is that he could be someone that is integrated into the archery community, because people talk about Howard Hill with great respect. People revere Baron Ferguson, his skill shots, but Lars Andersen is a very divisive figure. He doesn't want to be in the archery community. He doesn't want to be in the entertainment industry. He is, by the way, but he's an island to himself, where he doesn't work with the historical community. He doesn't work with the archery community. He does his own thing, and of course he's allowed to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that it's divisive. He has a lot of people who are inexperienced, who are very gullible, and when he presents half truths, misconceptions, even outright lies, people believe that. And after the last 5 years or so in the post Lars era, in my opinion, Lars has been the worst thing that has happened to archery. People keep saying, "Oh, he's done so much for archery. He's helped promote archery. Well, for Lars Andersen, I wouldn't know who you are." I don't care. I don't care if you think Lars is the best shooter on earth, and I don't have to be thankful to Lars Andersen. I mean, like, I didn't become popular because of Lars Andersen. I could be just as popular without Lars Andersen. So I can prove it too, by the way. The biggest spike in my viewership is because of my Olympic archery videos. So I became successful in the back of my own work, not by free writing of other people. Now, did he have an effect? Sure, he had some effect, but the graphs are stark, and I can show you right now. For those who keep on criticizing, oh, Lars Andersen is why you're famous. No, he wasn't actually. I can prove it. So this is what we're talking about. By the way, I've completely ignored all the prior the prior questions, but this is an important thing just to show here, right? So let's look at this social blade thing. I can show you where. Maybe I need a more historical graph. Maybe the YouTube analytics. Let's use the YouTube analytics, because the default interface. Or maybe there is something there. There's detailed stats, isn't there? Detailed stats for social blade, and it should show. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me show you the effect of Lars Andersen, or the Lars effect versus the new effect. Okay, so this is what people keep on hating me for. But Lars Andersen made you popular. Now this is the sub counter since I'm doing this for like since 2011, whatever. But this spike here, this single spike where it got like tens of thousands of subscribers or thousands of subscribers in the period of a month, or half a month. This spike is the Olympic swing video. This is where we got the Olympic archer swing. This video, which now has about 3 million views, is the reason why I became suddenly sensationally huge. And there are other reasons too, but that was the trigger there. So right, this jump here is because of that video, not because of Lars Andersen. Now, this doesn't go back any further. I can probably go back. Can I get? Nah, that's how you do it. But in comparison to this, that's me. Now, I'll try and bring up the YouTube analytics. I'll hide the screen for now. But if I look at YouTube analytics, let's see, dashboard. Yeah, let's go dashboard. I might try to see the new one. Yeah, well, we'll use a new interface. And you see this difference. So yeah, this is in reference to Lars Andersen and how big impact he made on archery. It's questionable how big it is, because it's mostly coming from people from the non-archery community telling the archers that he's doing us a favor, when they don't know how much a favor is done. And if anything, it's done a huge disservice. And again, nothing personal against the guy, but this is not what people think archery is. Can you do lifetime? Yes. Okay, so let's do, what is this? Watch time? I want subscribers. Build an audience. Is that right? Subscribers? Yeah. That's kind of not working right now. Fascinating. I might go to the old dashboard. I just want to show this to you because it's such a strange thing when people tell me and lecture me at how grateful I should be when all my analytics and stats prove otherwise. And I guess some behind the scenes stuff for those who are just very curious about, how a big YouTuber kind of looks at stats compared to Grizzly Gym size channel. That's something I bagged him for because a while ago on the Push podcast he was talking about YouTube and how like it's pretty slow, you don't make much money from it. Come on, please. When you have like one video every 3 months, of course it'd be low. When you have a much larger outreach, it's a bit different here. Okay, let's go to subscribers. Even this graph is so telling. Give me a moment. Come on, generate this. Yeah, is this the best we can do? I need I had it before. I'm just trying to show this to you because it's... here it is. Okay. All right. This again for everyone who's been telling me that Lars has done me a huge favor. Just watch this. So, okay, I just refreshed it. Nah, I had it before. If you're wondering, space, why does Lars trigger me? Like, just remember, like every day I get hate messages from Lars fans. Okay, every day. You don't see the behind the scenes for this, but I get a lot of hate mail from Lars fans. So you're asking why does it trigger you so much, right? You don't get this hate mail, right? For people who are observers, people who are just looking at this, it's like, oh yeah, it's pretty fun. Why is it triggered, right? No. I put my foot in the door. And now I have to deal with every like hater of modern archery, every hater of Lars, and it's not a pretty thing. I mean, it's the reason why I want to, in some ways I want to stop doing YouTube because of this pro Lars and the anti Lars kind of factionality. It's stupid, and I just want to do archery for fun. But all these armchair commentators who aren't archers at all put us up here. So this is when I want to show the stats. So 2015 is when Lars made his viral video, and if you zoom in carefully enough, there's a very marginal spike somewhere in here in 2015. Lars made his, I think, was that at the very start of it? No, it doesn't matter. So I think Lars made his second viral video once there was archery at this point. So this tiny spike over here might have been a Lars video. 2015 was, again, if I zoom in, you'll see this. But the point being is that this period here, from October to December 2017, was the Olympic swing video. So by far and large, and I think over here is the Tong art. So when I made the Tong art video, that's when that spiked up there. But there are a few interesting spikes. There was a second period where that video trended, but this was by far the period. It was nothing to do with Lars at all. So no, I'm in fact not thankful for Lars. I didn't need him, and basically my stats don't lie. The bulk of my viewers and subscribers came from my content, not his content. So that's why I am not grateful, and why you shouldn't think about that. Now that said, there is one more thing about certain, like, Lars actually doesn't trigger me. I've learned to deal with the criticisms, and now that I'm more educated on the historical background, I've more ground on that. I'm actually more triggered by Shadiversity. Honestly, okay, between Lars and Shadiversity, I think Shadiversity is the bigger of the two evils, because he is credible enough for people to believe in. Lars, a lot of people will go, oh yeah, people will dismiss him as being a fraud, and it's pretty easy to judge either you believe him or you don't. Shadiversity is a lot trickier because he's a lot more active in the community, at least the history side, a much bigger, more prominent creator on YouTube. That is the problem, is when he makes things up, because he's like a torpedo, right? He'll go under the radar or under the sonar, and then he blows up with his fake history, and no one detects it because it's buried beneath layers upon layers of good history. and that's what pisses me off more than Lars Andersen. Lars is Lars by now. But Shadowversity is someone who I do not want to collaborate with. Never had good relationships with him. A lot of people dislike him actually, but as a rule goes, if you don't like the person, you don't watch their content. I don't watch their content. Like I said, this is the casual live stream. I'm being a bit more unhinged here, a bit more liberal. But yeah, I'm taking all these questions. But yeah, that's somebody asked about Lars. I knew someone would do that. That's on you there. But yeah, I mean, in the end, I could care less. It's really hard to make archery content in the post Lars era because so many people are buying into the narrative, and it's not so much that as an archer I'm triggered. It's more like as a history, as a person who loves history and likes archery. It's hard to work with people who've brought up with pop history. That's something I've picked up recently. Pop history is probably the bigger problem rather than a particular person like Lars or Shad or so on. I think pop history has a very big role in popularizing history concepts, but it's also responsibility, which some people are very responsible for and try to do the right thing. Others are a bit more lax, and we all start that way. But we need to be responsible for it too. Arrow tuning. Yeah, at some point I will. I haven't used the Kim Hoon Tak Archery app. Well, that's Pepsi Max. Strong stuff. Collaborate. The funny thing was actually, Lars did invite me to do a collaboration at some point. Last year he sent me a message. He wanted to do a Q&A, and he trusted me because I'm actually not a Lars critic. Now I am more of a vocal Lars critic, but at the time, this is like mid 2018, before he shot things to people's heads. I was quite an outspoken moderate, if that makes any sense. So I didn't think Lars was himself a bad shooter, but a lot of us like complimenting what he's producing. And unfortunately, since the 2018 incidents, I've been less inclined to collaborate with Lars, and I don't think that will happen. I mean, I'm still open to collaborations with other people, but that is unfortunately not going to happen. Probably a good thing that way. I mean, what could we possibly do that will be appeasing to most people? Anyway, doesn't matter. Get past that. Will I ride a horse? No, I won't ride a horse. I would like to, but no. Damaha asked the question, what were historical strings made from? They were either made from natural fibers, plant fibers like hemp, for example, or from sinew, or cat gut, for example. Yes. Yeah, War of the Arrows. I do plan on covering the War of the Arrows. I want to do an archery primer. So very much like I did for Robin Hood 2018. I want to do an archery primer. So it's been out for a while now. It's not really a primer, but it's going to cover the archery side of the movie. Very good movie. If you haven't seen it, excellent movie to watch. Yeah, it's very much dramatized. But some people, it looks so authentic that it looks like it's real, but it's actually not. The archery there is very much sensationalized. I guess the thing which sticks out to me about War of the Arrows is that it's a good archery movie, and a movie that is well done. I want to cover a comparison between Robin Hood, the Lars Andersen version, versus War of the Arrows, because both these movies kind of ride on the back of exotic archery skill. Great War to a lesser extent, because it's not about the archery. Matt Damon's character is an archer, but it's not really archery specific or archery centric. Robin Hood 2018 is archery centric. They brought in Lars Andersen, and they wanted to include this very exotic style of archery to appeal to viewers before the action. And then you have War of the Arrows, which is a very exotic archery as well. Well, in Korea it's normal archery, but to us Western viewers, it's exotic archery. So what I want to do is compare like a Hollywood archery film like Robin Hood versus the Korean archery film, which is War of the Arrows. And in my opinion, War of the Arrows does a much better job at portraying archery in a plausible way. So Robin Hood, and this is the style and genre as much as the theme in Hollywood, but Robin Hood, I want to call it Robin Hood Origins. Can I call it Robin Hood Origins? Because I'm saying Robin Hood 2018 is so, I hate calling Robin Hood 2018. I think calling it Robin Hood was one of the dumbest things. And the whole movie was pretty dumb in general, but calling it Robin Hood was so pretentious, it's dumb. If they call it Robin Hood Origins, at least they could distinguish between other Robin Hood films. It's like you have King Arthur. King Arthur isn't like a proper name for a movie when you modernize it. Anyway, so Robin Hood 2018 is an example of fantastical archery, which is poorly done. War of the Arrows is very authentic, plausible archery that is produced in a plausible setting. So you have Robin Hood, which involves speed shooting in very set piece, equilibrium style battles. You have three knights charging in, you have three arrows, pew pew pew, all three knights die. There's no suspense, it's all about showboating, jumping around slow motion, it's really stupid stuff. And then you have War of the Arrows, which is a very tactical battle of wits sort of thing. It's not about if Otto directed War of the Arrows, you would have the main character from War of the Arrows. He'll be hiding in a bush, and when all the Manchus run by, he'll jump out and speed shoot 10 Manchus in a row, and there'll be like arrows and stuff flying everywhere and splinters and explosions. That's the thing which would happen if this is Hollywood. But what we see instead is a very intense, patient battle where we're using the technology, we're using the tools, we're using the environment for the maximum cinematic effect. Not something which is cheesy and over the top, but something which is it's like a kung fu movie, but you can see the tactical application of it. And in a lot of ways, I do think that the archery in War of the Arrows is plausible and more realistic. I don't care about historical accuracy; that it is historically accurate, more so than Robin Hood, the 2018 version, because people are so hung up about that draw that that Taron Egerton uses, that Lars Andersen teaches. But we see again War of the Arrows, which is authentic Korean technique in an authentic Korean setting in a fictionalized story. But my goodness, that's such a good scene. All the battle scenes are done with a lot more art involved, not over the top stuff, but a lot more care and art, and it makes you think about what could be done by a lone archer, not something stupid like running and shooting and jumping around, but patient stalking, ambushing, creativity, intuition, that sort of thing, which is more reminiscent of proper archery, if not war archery, at least what archery could be applied for, not crazy battlefield stuff. Banner Brothers was actually one of my favorite TV series. It came out when I was in high school, and I was in my World War II phase. I love Banner Brothers. I read the book by Stephen E. Ambrose. I watched the whole series, watched the behind the scenes. I really loved it. The Pacific, not as much. Very good series, but I connected with Banner Brothers a lot more. The drama, the characters were so authentic. And the fact that they used people who had a physical likeness to the real people was amazing. What I thought was one of the behind the scenes stuff which really got to me was when I was watching. We had it was Damian Lewis who played Winters. He was standing in front of a bridge in the Netherlands, at the same bridge which the real Richard Winters was standing in front of, and just the likeness is so scary. It was such a authentically done TV series, and I think that series did history well. They kept it very close to the source material. Even the mistakes in the Banner Brothers series were authentic mistakes. Actually, I just want to point out that I have the series right next to me over here. Actually, so I've got Banner Brothers, again, just showing what I think about it and how much a fan I am. I do in fact have the box set right next to me. I haven't watched it for a while, but funny you asked that, 'cause I've got it right here. But there's a mistake in the film, in the series, where Private Blythe, Albert Blythe, in one of the episodes, he was wounded and died in hospital, and the episode was dedicated to his death. And the thing was that he didn't die, and his son pointed out that he came back to America and he set up a business, I think a construction business or something, and he lived and he died at an old age. And a lot of people pointed out that it was a mistake in this TV series and it didn't make any sense. But the reason that the mistake happened was because the Easy Company didn't know what happened to Albert Blythe because he was lost in all the casualties of war. So he never returned to Easy Company. He was never able to connect to the veterans and survivors because this was before the internet, right? So when Winters and Easy Company found out about Albert Blythe, they were devastated because the biography of Winters and Easy Company from Stephen Ambrose was based on their recollections and their memories. And because they didn't know what happened to Private Blythe, it was recorded in Stephen Ambrose's book that he went missing, and therefore the TV series made a dramatization of his death. When in real life, they didn't actually know. They found out because of the TV series that he actually lived and died in America. So, very amazing sequence there. What's this time shift? You complain about being rambling for too long, please. This is a casual live stream. I do what I want here. The for Mad Sean. So the thing about Hitler's death was that the reason I was reading a comment from on YouTube. It was a mistakes thing in Banner Brothers, and one of the commenters was actually the screenwriter for that story. And I don't recall exactly what happened, but they actually didn't intend to use that scene. It's a scene where they're in Germany and they're playing Mozart, or it's actually Beethoven, and they mentioned Hitler died, and it's the wrong date. It didn't make sense in the timeline. From what I recall, that was an unintentional mistake. They actually planned to use. It was a mistake in the script, and the script writer, I think, corrected it, but it didn't get through to the final production team. So that was an actual mistake that was picked up but not corrected in time for the production. So I think that's what I recall there. Yeah, sorry, that's a Band of Brothers thing. Differences between what metal and carbon writers. It's you can't really describe. You can't really describe the differences. Like, you have to feel it. I mean, like, you could describe it, but yeah, it's a big topic for a different time. The thing is that Big Cat is that they weren't using like they weren't like, they did as much research as they could, but the thing is that it's based off Stephen Ambrose's work. They weren't doing their own research on top of that. They had a lot of veterans involved, so they asked the real people. They asked Stephen Ambrose, and look, as far as like everyone at Easy Company was concerned, he was dead. I mean, if all the survivors said that he was dead, then they wouldn't have a reason to point out that he wasn't dead. And again, nobody actually knew, and even the records. Again, this is before the internet. This is before electronic records. When you have like this is like 1940s record keeping, a lot of things were actually lost. And you can't find these things anymore. So it wouldn't be surprising if a film company, like HBO in this case, prior to Game of Thrones fame, that's I wouldn't be that surprised that it couldn't find the record of one soldier out of millions in World War II. So it's not as simple as it looks, and it's not a mistake which was grievous, and the fact that even they didn't know it was a mistake in the first place. Yeah, because like I said before, they lost track of his where he was during the war, because by that time the war was moving into the Netherlands and Germany. So one wounded soldier is unfortunately one out of millions. So it's not really a mistake in that sense where the film screwed up and got it wrong, but the real life people actually didn't realize it. It's just a fascinating bit of trivia there. Bogros has a question. What do you prefer and why? Shoot with an archery ring right-sided or shooting left-sided with a glove? I'd probably go with shooting the conventional Mediterranean draw on the left side. Although I do love shooting thumb draw, but I'm just not familiar with it enough. So I'd probably shoot the way most people today shoot. So, but both are fascinating. Like, why do I prefer it? Because I've done it for longer. But apart from that, depends on if I, grew up in a different time and place, I would have enjoyed thumb draw a lot more. Doesn't mean I can't enjoy it now, but I just want to, that's what I find appealing. I mean, functionally, left side, three finger draw, but in terms of what will probably match me more, probably the thumb draw. Mostly because my dad hates modern styles. Like, my dad's the kind of person who he hates the sporterized version or the sportified versions of warfare. So he hates modern taekwondo, the WTF taekwondo. He hates like modern boxing. He loves he loves the ITF taekwondo. He loves Hapkido. And he always chides me in a funny way. But as an Asian parent, it's hard to tell humor from serious expectation. But he always makes a point every single time. He's triggered when I mention a bow because he always wants me to shoot a Mongolian bow. Because the Mongolians are the more famous archers in Vietnam. Mongol is what we call them. So he loves the Mongolian bows, and we just I shot them, and we just had a Mongol costume to wear, and every time I get a bow, he admires the technology behind it, but every lecture is you should shoot a Mongol bow. I've got a Mongolian bow, by the way. I've got one, but yeah, like every time you see a new bow and people send him bows for review, he gets insulted by seeing this modern concept. So when I deal with haters of modern archery, my father, not a hater, but also a critic of modern archery, so no support there. It's funny because I have like I've got a Korean bow coming in. I also have a Ming bow coming in. The other thing I'm missing from the collection is really a Yumi. I can buy one, but I don't really want to buy one. If all due respect, if I buy a Yumi, I'd just be shooting a Yumi. I don't think I'd really be making much out of it in terms of I wouldn't be doing Kyudo. Kyudo is a lot more ceremonial. There is a Kyudo school nearby. I tried it once. Fascinating. Not the kind of thing though. If I did it a long time ago, I might be more fascinated by it. But yeah, didn't find Kyudo that appealing to me. Hmm. It's debatable how much of the Mongol conquest was the bow and how much of it was the sheer fact that there were like thousands of Mongols riding down in your peaceful empire. It's like it's having expanded my library just a bit more and seeing from a more historical and academic perspective about the actual outreach of archery, such as the steppe archers versus the European archers. Um, a lot of it's again we are sold by we're sold by pop history, and this is what Bogros has been asking. What do I think of Lieutenant Spears? In the series, he's a badass. But like, the thing is that he's a character in a series based on a real story. How much of it was real? Probably a lot of it. But what can I say about it? He's a fascinating character. Actually, one of my favorite characters in the series. But again, like, this is pop history. I don't want to be caught up too much in details about a fictionalized character versus the real thing. Fiction is fiction, real is real. So yeah, I was saying before that people are very brought up by pop history. I think pop history has a very big role in it, in promoting history. But if all we learn is pop history, there are many risks involved. And part of what I'm doing now with my channel is in making more history videos, studying more history, being a bit more academic, not fully academic, but a bit more academic, and therefore presenting more accurate information with more reliable sources rather than what people generally think. And again, what I'm learning from is Shadowversity. Since he was very condescending and insulting of my rebuttal to his video, I'm going to make better videos with better research and better sources than what he provides. I don't want to be the sort of person who makes a very vague generalization of a video, because people always point out that it's not quite right. And while I'm not always going to be right, I want to be as research as possible so I actually know what I'm talking about. I think a big part of my inspiration is coming from the Ask Historians subreddit, because there are very strict rules on Ask Historians compared to history subreddit. The Ask Historians, you have to actually be a historian. You have to be able to prove your sources. You have to be able to discuss on a higher level. And a big question that was raised, and I thought was really fascinating, was, do you have to answer this? Are you the right person to answer this? And that got me thinking about what I do on the channel. There are things which, for a long time, I didn't think I was the right person to provide information on. Over time, as I learned more and felt more comfortable, that's when I produce information. Like, I didn't make videos about horse bows until very, very recently when I started shooting horse bows. I could talk about them very vaguely, but without actually practicing the art myself, I couldn't go to any detail. And really, I could only generalize about Mongolians and Huns, and that's basically it. Now I've got a lot more knowledge on like steppe archery. I've just been reading a book on steppe archery, so I know a lot more about the different groups of nomads who went to Europe from Asia. Now I do know that there are three separate groups, or two separate groups. There's the Iranian-speaking peoples that were more popularly known from the ancient times, like ancient Roman Greece, the Scythians, the Sarmatians, and so on. And then there are the Turkic groups. So you have the Huns, of course everyone knows, the Uyghurs, the Azars, the Kazakhs. So we have different migration periods. So that's where like I want to have this discussion. I mean, I'm going to be more of the pop history more so than the real history, but at least I'm going to have a finer balance, and that's why I want to kind of cover a different line of videos covering history, because more people are interested in history than actually doing archery. But we can do both. But that involves time, study, research. But at least I want to give it a fair representation rather than drawing on pop culture or what people generally know, because what people generally know isn't necessarily correct. I had a question before from he was asking this question, and we're doing a podcast. You asked a question. There were several times. And we're doing a podcast. Sorry, Davey Moon. No, because there already is a podcast. The Push does a podcast. Podcast is great. I don't listen to podcasts, but like if The Push invites me to come on their podcast, I'd be very happy to do so. I offered once after Grizzly Jim did his podcast, the Push podcast. I jumped in straight away and said, hey, I've got a bigger channel. If you want to interview me, I'm here. So if The Push wants me on, I'm happy to go on. I think they're the only one who have a sizable following, who have podcasts, but I'd be very open to do a podcast. As for doing one myself, no, not really interested in doing one myself, but I'd be happy to be involved in a podcast. Am I Korean? No. Have I experimented with slingshots? No. The reason why is because slingshots are considered a weapon in Australia, at least in Victoria. Different states have different laws, but here it's actually illegal, so I can't own a slingshot. I have tried the pocket shot as a review, but I found it was illegal. So while they offered to send me another review sample, I said no, I can't do that. It's illegal. So I haven't done stuff with slingshots. Technique, well, a good slingshot technique involves an anchor point too. It would, like with all things, like different activities, it shouldn't interfere with other activities. Like playing piano shouldn't interfere with playing saxophone. Learning Japanese shouldn't interfere with learning Chinese. They should enhance each other. So, learning to use a slingshot well shouldn't stop you from being a proficient archer and vice versa. If anything, I'd probably go with go with what you enjoy more. There's no downside really, apart from time. If you don't have limited time, then you need to ration your time and balance it out. If I had to choose one Asian bow, what would you choose and why? The Ishman Tough Tartar bow. I've only shot like a handful of Asiatic bows, so I can't comment. But if I had to choose one, it'd probably be it will be the Mariner Ming bow, which is what I'm getting coming in right now. So I've got a Korean bow coming in, but the Mariner Ming bow is very likely going to be my trademark bow on the channel for Asiatic Archery. At the moment, it's the Mandarin Duck or the Junsing Qing bow, because it's very pretty. It's black laminate fiberglass and leather and red, so it's very catchy to the eye, but that's a cheap bow. The Mariner bow is a quality bow. Now, the only reason why it might not be my primary bow on the channel is because it's heavy. I wanted a 45 or 50 pound bow at most, but at my drawing, I'm a very short guy. So it's a 60-pound bow, which should be around 55 or 50 pound at a 27-inch draw, which is what I draw with my rear anchor point apparently. So I've got a 25.5-inch draw with my jaw here. A little short, like 25-inch on my traditional anchor, so 25, 25.5, or 26. So it's a 26-inch draw here, and if I anchor here, it's around 27-inch. So that's it's gonna be a heavier bow. Not sure if I can use that a lot in my channel, but that might be more the iconic thing. Any countries I'd like to visit? Plenty. I want to go back to Japan, Korea. I want to visit. And Europe as well, especially the history side. So I love Italy, France, Netherlands, Germany. I'll probably go for the culture and the history rather than seeing stuff. Do I know much about the art traditions of the Aborigines of Australia? The answer is they don't have an art tradition. Australia is unique in that. Sorry, you're playing there. Archery, Australia is unique in that it is the only continent in which archery, apart from Antarctica, you smartasses, it is the only continent where archery did not take off. The Aboriginals in Australia did not use bows. There was some trade between the Torres Strait Islanders and the people of Papua New Guinea, and the northern Aborigines up in Queensland, but they didn't actually use bows. They probably didn't find it necessary. Some interesting theories. One theory is that because bows developed everywhere except for in Australia, one theory is that the first bows were invented after the settlement of Aborigines in Australia, because if they brought the bows with them from other places, then that would imply that the bow was made before that. But because the Aborigines did not use bows, then there's pretty strong evidence. It's pretty sound reasoning that the Aboriginals, the bow was developed after Aboriginal settlement in Australia. The fact that bows were traded but never used or adopted widely is a big testament to why it wasn't used. And the big reason is that in Australia at the time, there were giant animals like megafauna. Like we had huge animals before they went extinct. But there were huge animals, and even the moderately sized animals, you have like kangaroos, like they were huge. They didn't need to use a bow. Like people were using bows to hunt like birds, or small game. And you have Aboriginals who are like bringing down like kangaroos and giant whatevers. What's this? Giant wombats, or giant birds and emus. It wasn't exactly hard to hit something like that. Giant lizards like goannas. So the spear was a much more useful hunting weapon. The woomera, yes, which is basically an atlatl that can throw a spear much further. So those things were much more useful. In fact, from what I've read, the northern Aboriginals were trading spears to the Torres Strait Islanders because spears were more useful for fishing. They were more useful for general hunting. Whereas in Australia, the bow wasn't going to be more useful than a spear. The spear was a much better hunting tool for the Australian megafauna at the time. Not just regular fauna, megafauna. All right. Now nowadays they're all extinct, apart from a few. But yeah, that's why bows weren't used in Australia for that. It's a great question, by the way. I might cover this in a different time period, in a different video, in more detail. But that's the reason. That's the history and the tradition of Aboriginal Australian archery. We don't have a tradition of archery in Australia. Bows were brought over Europeans. Good question then. What do I think about primitive technology bows? In primitive technology, the channel? I've seen his video. I don't know him personally. So nah, no idea. What bow gives you the most mobility? Bows don't give you mobility. Your feet do. Otherwise, the horses do. But bows don't give mobility. Well, sorry. That's strong, Pepsi Max. It's flat, so it's a bit more, bit more of a bird in the back of the throat there. Yeah, boomerangs are mostly used to hunt. I think birds. Because remember, boomerangs don't come back. They're not meant to come back. The hunting ones are basically sticks you throw. So you probably would chuck it at a. You could throw it at a bird, I guess, because it's enough concussive force to crack skulls. Do you know why Wombat Poo is square? I learned this from one of those like the how stuff works things, but really fascinating stuff. Like, do you know why Wombat Poo is square? Little trivia there. What other questions do we have here? I've got some questions from the channel, but it's all like archery questions. Archery questions on a non-archery stream, please. Have a shot of Yumi? No, have a shot of Yumi. I already said that. Recommending stuff. This is too complex. People dare ask me archery questions. Keep on asking that. I'm happy. I might go for half an hour maybe. Then for like schoolwork to get through. Tasmania? Is that Looney Tunes? Because I haven't seen that. Hip bones, huh? Because what I read was that a wombat poo is square so that it doesn't roll. Alright, because of their diets and the terrain in Australia, round droppings are more prone to rolling away. Whereas square poo is less inclined to roll away, therefore wombats can mark their territory easier. That's what I read. I don't remember exactly what it was. I could be wrong there, but that was something which was postulated. I mean, I've seen Taz in Looney Tunes. I mean, I grew up in Looney Tunes. Not much else to really say about that, but yes, I have seen Taz. What else is there? Scarabees roll away. Oh, okay. Primitive's bow. Yes. I think the bow is pretty good. The bow is, from what I understand, made to be quite close to what a primitive bow would have been made like. I think, from what I've read, it's a very close, very authentic and realistic bow. It also reveals the limitations of bows. I'm going to show very quickly here because I think I've seen this video. It's very interesting. So let me primitive archery bow. I don't have the video saved. The reason why I find it fascinating is because you can't achieve a full draw with these bows. These bows are not designed to be shot with a full draw, which explains a lot of traditional archery technique. So a lot of primitive tribes today still have short draws because the bows can't be drawn back fully. YouTube. So yeah, he has a typical short bow, which would make sense. Like, come on. There we go. Primitive. Apparently, I'm live right now. Technology bow. Is that what it was? Because yes, that's the one. Beautiful video. Very fascinating. Because what I want to show you is when you look at the way he shoots, it is obviously not a modern technique, but it works. He hits it most of the time. So he has very good quality. Well, he has an authentic build. And what I find fascinating, again, is the way he shoots the bow. He can't draw it back any further. So what he shoots, or how he shoots, that's all he can do. Because if he pulls back any further, the bow will snap. Or the string will snap. So the string is made from plant fiber, and the bow is made from a single piece of wood. So he deviated it a bit in terms of design, but it's a functioning bow. And I think in terms of the purpose of making something that looks primitive or something that is close to primitive, this is a very good replica, I think. And he shoots it reasonably enough. Considering he's not an archer, he's not like an actual primitive hunter. The draw, I think, is around 30 or 40 pounds. It's quite significant. But again, the draw length is very short. And again, the technique, aside from the fact it's not a trained archer, this is more likely how people would have shot, given the limitations of the materials they had. And this is why we see things like the composite bow and the longbow. So the longbow and the composite bow deviate because it addresses the same issue in two different ways. So if you need a more powerful bow, which you can draw back fully, you can't use a short bow. That will snap. So if you have a very, very long bow, then you can draw back all the way and it won't snap. It'll just be very, very heavy. Or you can have a shorter bow from composite materials and shoot with thumb draw, because you can't shoot 3 fingers of a short bow, all very easily, very comfortably. So it's a fascinating kind of divergence. And composite bows go back a long, long way. Like, they go back to like 5000 BC or somewhere around there. So they're almost as old as the longbows that we know of. So they go back a lot. It's fascinating. So yeah, the video is quite good because it shows us a lot about the well, not a lot, but it shows us a way in which primitive people might have made their bows, and I think it's quite consistent with what we know of archery in prehistory. So yeah, it's a good video, and it's a fascinating design. Oh yeah, Fred Bear, the old timey guys, yeah, they shot with short draws. I mean, like the modern long draw is very much development of target archery, which again is spread to hunting as well. So a lot of people shot short, but with very heavy bows, which is actually quite similar to how again a lot of historical archers might have shot. If I had to use one of my bows as firewood, which would I choose? The ones which are actually made from wood. Most of the bows are like, modern materials. You have, fiberglass, you've got carbon, aluminium, you can't burn them. So yeah, the actual wood bows. I don't have like 2 wood bows. So yeah, then I'd burn them. Which on a side note also is interesting, because when we think about like historical bows, European longbows or English longbows would have been seen as just a tool. It's just firewood. So if you couldn't use it or it was broken, or you had to get rid of it, you burn it. You use it as firewood. Whereas if you look at the Eastern composite bows, they were works of art. Like, they took years to make. Like, it took months to make the glue by itself. Took months to get the bow into shape. So the bows were meant to be used for a long period of time and passed down between generations. Whereas bows in Europe were like, well, it's a bow now and tomorrow it's firewood. So very different mentalities. Bows in Europe were more made to be manufactured in more volume, whereas bows in the East were meant for fewer people to use but were higher quality. That was fascinating. Thomas Van Norden. I film in my club, but I don't film in my garage. I'm not sure. I don't think the Atalato is illegal. I've seen a video of someone at a local archery club use it, so I'm inclined to think that it's not illegal. That's what I think. I'm not entirely sure about the rules there. How long being an archer? 8 years now. My favorite YouTuber? I don't really have a favorite YouTuber. Let's see my list. Who my sub to that I watch a lot of? Because I tend to be very temperamental with my what I watch. Because I don't watch YouTube for the YouTuber. I watch it for the content and topics, and a lot of people cover topics I really like. So it's hard to name one favorite YouTuber. If you name like a particular like field like history or archery, I could probably name a favorite YouTuber. I don't have one favorite YouTuber. Enrico had a question: why do most professional archers shoot aluminium? I think Kitson Tannery answered the question. It's because most people are sponsored by Hoyt, and Hoyt makes aluminium risers. I don't think there's anything bad about carbon, but in terms of marketing and outreach, aluminium has been around for longer. The technology has been refined more, and companies like Hoyt, which are giant companies, are more inclined to sponsor more archers who shoot really well. So it kind of makes a cycle, where a quality bow shot made by a quality company, shot by quality athletes, and that kind of promotes itself. It's why you will unlikely see me review a free sample from Hoyt, or Win and Win for that matter, because they've got enough marketing as it is, especially Hoyt. Win and Win Win and Win knows me. Win and Win, they follow my social media, and I've shot Win and Win for a long time. Now I don't. Now I shoot Chaser, so Chaser now follows me a lot. But Win and Win used to follow me and they stole my content and so on. But yeah, like Win and Win probably wouldn't send me a bow, and Hoyt probably wouldn't send me a bow either, because they already have so much good marketing existing. They don't need some random Asian guy on the internet, plugging their stuff, because they already have a much bigger following without influencers. Whereas these smaller companies need influencers to have a much positive impact, and that's for traditional bows and for modern bows as well. So there is something there for a YouTuber or a creator or influencer like me. But yeah, that's kind of where it's at with the Hoyt bows. Most people shoot aluminium, because most people shoot Hoyt. There are others. I mean, Fivix, MK Archery, they make aluminium bows as well. But yeah, basically aluminium has been more of a widespread design and technology material. Carbon's a bit newer, and fewer companies take it up. They perform really well. I mean, a lot of companies, a lot of shooters use carbon bows very effectively. And in the end, a high-end bow is going to perform the same, no matter who shoots it. No matter like who it's up against. A good shooter using a Win-and-Win carbon bow will also be very good, compared to a Hoyt shooter using an aluminium bow. So there's no real difference per se. It's just like who is the better marketing team. It's like with tennis rackets or whatever. Like in the end, it's all about the top end athletes being sponsored by top companies. The racks themselves, they're all made more or less the same way. There's some unique designs and materials and breakthroughs, but in the end, the racket is only the tool. It's the athlete that makes the difference. I know Lindy Page. Yeah, no, he's very fascinating. He borders on what I can access. It's mostly because his style of narrative is unscripted, and there's a lot more, personality. He's very interesting as a person, very fascinating, but quite verbose. Nothing bad about that, but I prefer a more streamlined presenter. Someone who's interesting and can present something in a very fun way, and for some people, Lindy Beach is perfect for that. I actually find it a little hard to watch Lindy Page. But for the most part, like 85% of the time, I enjoy his content. Just sometimes I find it a little tricky to get used to. But otherwise, it's fine. Like I said, I find Chat Diversity much more difficult to access just because of the way he is unscripted and kind of awkward. His fans love him for it, but I find it really hard to watch. But Lindy Page is, I think, a much more accessible creator. And again, he makes really good content. Very fascinating stuff. Yeah, Eastern owns Hoyt. Yes, Yamaha that make motorcycles and pianos and made bows. Same company. Do I know if I have directly influenced sales? I don't have any stats for that. I mean, I have anecdotes. Like when Chaser sent me the Python, like five of the people right away bought the Python like as soon as I had it in my hands. So I know I have some effect. I don't know how much of an effect. So I do know that a lot of my bow reviews don't have a huge outreach, but the companies really appreciate. Like for example, Southwest Archery had a very small online footprint. So by sending me like three bows, the Stingray was a big one. The Spider was very popular as well. This sort of thing is like it's useful but not large scale. So this is what I found. The actual bows which I probably would buy myself, like the Southwest bows, only a few thousand people will actually watch the video. So the footprint is there, so that there's reliable review of the bow, but only a few thousand people might watch it. Whereas something like the Phantom is sold en masse. Same to Samick Sage. The Phantom, the Sage, basically any cheap Chinese bow, because a lot of people will go for the cheapest stuff possible. So they'll find reviews for the cheapest stuff possible. Almost ironic because I spoken out against like the mass selling of generic bows like the Samick Sage syndrome. That was 4 or 5 years ago, where people just bought the Samick Sage and thought it was the best bow ever. It isn't. It's just a good bow, not the best bow ever, but a good bow. And now like I'm kind of like being the echo chamber for the cheap mass market bows. And in fairness, the bows aren't bad. If you have no need for a bow, then any bow is good. So the Phantom is a good bow. I personally don't like it as much. I haven't used it since. It's a bow. If you want to use a bow, the Phantom is fine. I would probably buy a different bow because I have a more developed sense of preference now. I know what I like to shoot. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I don't know how much I've influenced. But I think the companies which benefit the most are the Chinese companies, because they have a very small profile in the West, but people in the West will spend a very low amount of money to get a decent bow, and that's what's happening there with the company. So yeah, I don't know how much of an influence, how much of a difference it makes, but it's there. I've got a feeling it's not that much. Again, I think the Chinese companies are much more. They're going to benefit a lot more. So I'm just checking the actual playlist to see how much people have watched the bow reviews. So I'm just out of curiosity. It doesn't say here. Come on. Does it actually give me a playlist with the amount of views? Really? It doesn't do that. Does my analytics have that? Analytics is so important for any YouTuber, by the way. If you're a YouTuber, you know exactly how this works. It's really this is what counts more. Oh, the hell? That's probably a glitch in the system. Alright, let's say I've got a playlist. Actually, no. I'll just search a bow review. NUSensei, but that'll bring up all the videos. Okay, all right. There are certain advantages of being searchable. So, Phantom, no surprise, 60,000 views in a year. That's not surprising there. The Bear Takedown, 13,000 views. Now, this is a luxury bow. Why are there so many views? This is a bit abnormal here. Where are they coming from here? I'm curious. So let's do some analytic work. So let's get analytics. We'll find out how people are getting here. Now, this is probably because Survival Lily probably brings up search results. I'm curious where these come from. So traffic sources, and I'll put on lifetime. So what are people searching here? So most people get it from search. So the people, that means people are looking for the bow. So yeah, this is kind of like my current viewer base. Watch that. So people are searching for it, and there's a few externals, also suggested videos, would make sense. People will binge watch. So how are people searching for this? No, they're searching for bear takedown probably, because it is a luxury bow. Not surprising. Oh, wait, hang on. Takedown recurve bow. Yeah, when you name your bow a takedown bow, literally, of course people are going to look it up. Yeah, that's not surprising. Not surprising there. Okay, so it's probably an incidental search result. Quite a few people are searching for bear takedown, but yeah, it seems to be incidental. And for the bear grizzly, yeah. It's most people searching for bear archery. Oh, that's cool. So that's fascinating. The Mandarin duck, that's always going to be huge. How are people searching for this? Majority are search results. So 41% are searching for the phantom, and for external as well. Where's that being linked from? So what are people searching? It's probably like Mandarin duck phantom. For the most common search result there. Google search, yeah. People Google the phantom. Reddit, and that's not much. 22 views. There's a search. What's this? Yep, Mandarin duck phantom. That's largely searching for the phantom. Easy enough, yeah. All right. So yep. The phantom is 60k. The bear takedown 13,000. So that obviously was Grizzly Jim's. I bought that after I sponsored him for his World Championship run. The Phantom was sent to me, so that was a very successful promotion. This is, I think, if you search for the Phantom, that's the #1 search result for a good reason. So that was a very good move by Mandarin Duck. I mean, they had Survival Lily sponsored. They sent me some samples. So Mandarin Duck Duck. Phantom, and yeah, #1 search result, not a problem there. I think they sent one to Jack as well. That's a good channel. He has a lot of views in that channel there on that particular video, and we have of course millions on Survival Lily's videos. But by far that's me. Okay, good. So that was a good profitable venture from Phantom. $100 bow, free marketing basically. Bear takedown was not sent to me. I bought that, so that's nice marketing there. The Mong Yuan 84 was sent to me. 8,000 views. Fascinating. Again, cheap Chinese crap China takedown bow. Phantom, that's interesting. 14,000. This is my friend's bow, one of the club members, so it wasn't sent to me. 14,000. I think cheap riser appeal. Southwest Spider was sent to me for review. They really wanted to get some help marketing this. 7,500 is pretty moderate. Topen R2, cheap Chinese riser. Back the hell out of that. Oh my god, this is one of my favorite videos. Like, this is the one. When people ask why don't I do bad bow reviews, this is the one you need to watch because the kit is shit. One of the worst kits I've ever used. I should do a poll, which is like the favorite video, but this is one of my favorites because I've only done 2 bad reviews. One was the pocket shot, fair enough, not really a bow though, and the Topen R2 kit. The bow itself was okay, but the kit was terrible. Samick Sage, not surprising, the most views, 121k. That was the trendy bow. So that's when Three Rivers sent me a free bow. Yep, I'll take that. That was absolutely fantastic. The Yao is now TFT. Interesting. Probably the most popular bow in the last year. They're trying to replace the CXT line, the Inno line. So that's not surprising to me. That's a recent release. Forge Plus. The only review which is not in high definition. I accidentally put it on 480p. But yeah, 30,000. The SF Forge Plus was the most recommended bow for intermediate to beginner Olympic style archers, so that's not surprising. And that's the cheap bow, no one buys that. 10k for the Marble Elite. this is actually this is influential. You know, like depending on what people send to me. The Frontier, yeah, they'll grow, I guess. They're not really a popular bow right now. The Stingray only 5,000. The Windrunner, Mandarin Duck it's probably the Mandarin Duck name. Same the Black Hunter. Mandarin Duck Black Hunter probably brings a lot of search results. The Hot Horizon, interesting, 13k. The Unison, it's a recent review back when I had facial hair. The Axiom, interesting, 20,000. I don't check these things normally, so I'm quite fascinated by which bows are getting search results. The ET2 Brotherhood, that's probably mostly my viewers. This is not a very popular bow, which people buy as far as I know. My own bow, hardly any search results, came out years after it came out, so people were probably more looking at the what's it, the InnoMax. I'm blank that now. What's the replacement called? I reviewed it. The Razorback cheap bow, interesting. That's really interesting. The bows and bows are quite low key. The InnoMax was what I was thinking. That was the replacement for the 60. Although ironically, it didn't replace it. The Atmos. I think the owner of SAS really wanted to promote this. It's very popular in the outdoor side. From the archery side, not so much. So I think he might have expected a much larger uptake, but I was being quite realistic. This is great, but the Tong are absolutely huge there. Wasn't selling this, but there we go. The Gilo isn't very big. The White Dolphin. Nika is a very bad marketing company. Sorry, Nika, by the way, but Nika is very bad at marketing. They also stole my images so on the eBay page. So a little cluelessness in the marketing side. I mean, like sending stuff to me to review is a good idea, but my goodness, they are bad marketing. The NanoMax. That's what I thought. I reviewed the CXT, I think the same time as the NanoMax, and that was the popular bow. This was the popular bow from the Carbon line from Win & Win, and then the TFT came out. So yeah, this is the reason why the CXT got very low views. You can see why I color code my thumbnails, by the way. People probably didn't really realize this. The purple was back when I didn't yet have a color code, but basically all my videos have, and this is before my color coding was figured out, but all my tip videos are gray, my bow reviews are green, my Q&A live streams are blue, and yeah, this is back when I didn't yet have a color code, but yeah, it's pretty well color coded for ease of reference, mostly for me. But yeah, those are my full reviews. So the question before was like, how much of an influence do I have on selling equipment? I don't know. Some are much more successful than others, whereas some bows, people will buy without my input. But stuff is there. And I'd say some things are very popular or have a very big effect in amplifying. Oh yeah, with the Black Wolf. The Black Wolf is there somewhere. That was a very popular video as well. Can't remember how much it was, but the Black Wolf is also a very popular video. I haven't played Warzone for a while, so I have no opinion on the repair cost anymore. It's a money sink. That's what it is. I think it's a very poor system. Oh hi Bill. Bill Halliwell. Nice to see you in the stream. Pedro, I had a question before. We talk a lot about cheap Chinese bows. What about cheap Chinese arrows? They're cheap, they're Chinese, and they're bad. People buy them en masse. If you're just chucking out arrows for no reason, they're okay. You really should be buying tuned arrows or arrows which match your draw weight. You shouldn't be buying Chinese arrows or cheap eBay arrows because they're not rated for a particular draw. That's a huge mistake people make because they buy arrows which are far too stiff for their bow. So the result is they have a very poor experience with their bow, and as a result they shoot poorly, and they don't know why. They keep thinking it's them or the bow, they don't think it's the arrow. Picking the right arrow is paramount. You have to pick the right arrow, and so many people, they might buy a decent bow, but they buy cheap Chinese arrows. Now to learn with it's okay because you'll probably break arrows or lose arrows, so nothing wrong with getting cheap arrows to lose. But if you're trying to learn and diagnose what your points of improvement are, then you need proper arrows. You don't need to get expensive arrows, but you need proper arrows. Because if the arrows aren't matched, and again, the online eBay bows are just made en masse, fiberglass, mass-produced stuff. It's not matched for your bow. And the Toepoint R2 is an excellent example. Watch that review of the kit, and you'll see why I hate um beginner kits like the R2, because the arrows don't match and you shoot like crap. Whew. Article 13. Look, it's a European thing, which it doesn't reach to us in the news as easily. Look, as a principle, we have to protect creators from companies enforcing their rights onto creators. So there should be some freedom in using copyrighted material in order to produce critical content. So any law which can be exploited to benefit the big companies and therefore punish people who otherwise have legitimate reasons to make content, that's bad. I know it's meant to stop the illegal use of copyrighted material, but that is not the right way to do about it. That will be exploited. All we have to do is look at YouTube's content ID system, and it is terrible. I haven't played Rust, Adam Forbes. I haven't played Rust yet, so no opinion on that. I've seen it once, but I haven't played it. What am I playing right now? Good question. I am just I actually started playing Total War Attila. Because I had it for years but never played it, so now I'm finally playing it. I heard it was not a very popular game. I heard the DLC was good, so the Age of Charlemagne was excellent, which I haven't played yet, but I've got it. But I've been playing through the main campaign. I'm playing through the Last Roman. Yeah, I've just started playing Total War Attila. Of course, Three Kingdoms is coming out very soon, so I might enjoy Three Kingdoms. Might be an Archery Pop Shots video. I recently just went through another spell of Mount and Blade to make a video on that. A lot of people wanted to watch Mount and Blade. In terms of what I'm otherwise playing, I just downloaded PC Building Simulator, which it's fun, but I actually would probably enjoy it. I'm not into like overclocking and PC building, not anymore. So it's a good concept. Didn't touch that. Funny enough, I just started. I downloaded and I'm started playing Star Trek Bridge Commander. Never played it when I was younger, but I'm just fascinated by the old style gameplay and just the whole phases and Star Trek thing was kind of fun. Is there anything I want to play? I'm checking my Steam here. Is there anything else I'm playing? Whoops, that's not Steam. It's AVG. Steam, where are you? Oh, Steam crashed. Hey, Steam. Of course it crashed. Of course. Probably updates. Random Steam updates. What else am I playing right now? It's beating up. Opinion of World of Tanks. I already said it before. World of Tanks is arcadey. If you like arcade gameplay, it's actually more balanced than War Thunder. It's good, but it's a bit too arcadey for me. I prefer a closer balance to arcade War Thunder, but it is arcadey, but also has a realistic damage system. Whereas World of Thunder, World of Tanks is a bit more. It's too arcadey because it is a hit point system, which I don't enjoy. Oh, you bought Kingdom Come Deliverance. There we go. I should play that again because they patched a lot of the bugs in Kingdom Come Deliverance, and there's more DLC. The problem with the DLC is that it requires the campaign, which means that it uses Henry, your character, from the campaign. If you've already finished it, you kind of miss out because it's really awkwardly situated. But yeah, yeah. Yeah, the archery in Tomb Raider was so overpowered, especially the multi-shot, one-hit headshots every single time. What dampers do I use? I don't use dampers. I use the ones which come with the stabilizers. So I'm using the Shrewd stabilizers. They already have dampers on it. I don't use any extra dampers. And helicopter's offset, I don't think there's enough of a difference to really say one's better than the other. Some people prefer one. I honestly don't have enough of a knowledge of the science and engineering arrows and fletchers to really save just better. Um, Limb savers, optional. Did it do anything? I don't know. Uh, uh, some people say they did their work and stuff. I don't know. Like I said, like there are things I don't know and I won't comment on, and I think that's the line I'll toe for as long as I can. There are things I think are worth knowing. I'll seek them out. Like I've bought like $400 worth of history books because I love history. I want to learn more about history. I have the smart intelligent glasses here just to work with that. But yeah, I want to probably find out more about the history side more than the tech side. That's probably the direction I'm going towards. I reckon I'll close the stream in a few minutes. We've had a nice 2 hour stream, I think. Started late, so whoops. I thought I put on 9:30. It was actually 9 o'clock, so still a lot of people waiting for me, which is great. But I think we'll bring the stream to an end. It's nearly midnight. I've got a lot of work to do, unfortunately, so need to rush a few things. But otherwise, let's clean up. So we'll spend a few minutes taking last questions. How often are live chats? Remember, we do a Q&A, an Archery Q&A once a month at the end of the month, and we do these form checks sporadically depending on how many people send me form checks. I normally do form checks yeah, after 2 or 3 video submissions, but people often don't send me videos. So if I get no videos, then I kind of hold them off until I do have a video, which might take could be like a month, it could be 2 or 3 months, because people don't normally. I don't regularly do it, which is why people don't send me things, but I can't do live form checks if I have no form checks. Am I back at school yet? Yes, we started last week, so we're back in term. Do I like gardening? No, I don't garden, and I don't do bushcraft. I used to be in the scouts, but I really hated scouts, mostly because of the culture that we were in. So it was a Vietnamese scout group, and it didn't match people who weren't Vietnamese or like weren't traditionally minded. So that was a tough one for me. Really hated it. Experienced a lot of bullying when I was in scouts, so that put me off a lot of social groups in general as a kid. Some of the worst years of my life, actually. I remember when I was doing an interview for a community award. They asked me about my experience with scouts and leadership, and I shared the story that it was the worst time of my life. Like it taught me, that I was a bad leader, that people who were forced to be there, weren't going to contribute, and it was very negative. Like it was very toxic, and I told the guy in his face that, look, if I had a positive experience, I would probably still be a scout today. But the experience I had it was negative. It wasn't well organized. It was poorly led, and we were helpless. And people just kept on leaving. And the guy I was talking to turned out to be a scout. He was a scout leader. But it hit him hard. It was a very upfront and honest reflection of my experience, and he basically gave me the award after a longer sequence of a longer process. But that was like I was very honest about it. I didn't know he was a scout leader, but I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't try to say, oh yeah, it was good in the end. I was very blunt and said it was actually the worst time of my life. I still think it was, unfortunately. It taught me nothing. I mean, scouts should teach a lot of things. It taught me knots, sure, but it was such a bad experience in my life because it was just so poorly led. I'll give you an example because Brandon mentioned scouts. So, like other scout groups, and every person I know who's done scouts, they're very excited about scouts, and there are many reasons, and one reason is that it's meant to challenge you personally, where you go out and you learn new skills and you earn your badges. Our scouts didn't do that. We didn't have a system where we could get badges. We didn't have a system where we could learn new things. We just went to the same place, learned Vietnamese traditional songs, which we couldn't sing because we couldn't speak Vietnamese. So we're just like mouthing these words and lines, which the adults could do. So the adults, it's basically the group was for the adults to hang out and reminisce over their nostalgic times back in Vietnam before the war. The kids were like the cousins or the nephews and nieces who were brought there and forced to go, not because they wanted to go, but because their parents wanted to hang out with the adults, and we were just hanging around tying knots with our shoelaces or something. And there was no progression. Leadership was very token. Oh, you've been here the longest. You're the scout leader. You're the troop leader. It was just so, like, it was such a native experience, and it really brought me down. Like the people who were there were like bullies. It was obviously a place where it attracted a lot of different personalities, a lot of socially awkward people as well. And as a socially awkward person, I got a lot of bullying. In fact, I remember a lot of my early anxiety stemmed from scouts. At the time, I was like, 8 years old. I didn't know what it was. But like looking back now, all the symptoms of my anxiety and my later depression would stem from scouts. So, and a lot of other things like language school. I have a very deep hatred of language schools because, again, a lot of bullying happened because people were forced to go. They didn't want to go, they were forced to go. So you have a lot of bullies, and that's probably. I mean, I wasn't bullied in high school proper, but the language schools was where I was bullied the most. That and scouts. So all the stuff my parents, my dad forced me to do, contributed to a lot of mental health issues later on. So I have a rather distorted experience of these things. Not saying they're bad, by the way. And, again, I make it very clear this is my personal experience. I think people who do scouts and I've spoken to are so enthusiastic. I almost envy them because they had what I didn't have. That's really, what it comes down to for jealousy. If there's any reason to be jealous, I'm not jealous of people who are better than me. I'm not jealous of like Lars Andersen or Byron Ferguson or Brady Ellison or whatever. I'm not afraid or jealous of people who are better than me. But if there's any reason to be envious, it's to be envious of people who had more opportunity than I did. And in some ways, that kind of it poses a challenge as a teacher, because I learned a lot from what I didn't have, and the students that I work with have more than what I had, and they're doing less with it. So it inspires me to teach my students to be more resourceful, to get them to make more out of what they have. Because like I work in a school which is poorly resourced, it's very disadvantaged, very multicultural, lots of struggling families, and yet we're a very happy environment, we're a very safe environment. And to me, both the students and the staff at the school, to me, they make more from less. I think that's why I enjoy being a teacher most of all. So it's a lot of personal experience kind of packaged, not to expect the same from younger people, but to guide them with the experience that I had. And I don't want people to go through hard times like bullying, but I want people to be able to learn from their experiences and not take things for granted. That's why people the same background as me, or I share the same background with, we can get along a lot easier. We know the expectations, and I know more how to deal with the parents who apply a lot of stress onto their kids for no reason. And also, I'm also there to inspire people to think it's okay, you'll make it. You'll find ways to work around it. Things which I didn't know I could do when I was younger. Anyway, on that note, I think we'll end it there. Again, thank you all for joining me for this live stream. Again, I do apologize for the slight delay. Some things happening there. But it's been a good time. There'll be more. I mean, I might not be as active. Having said that, I'll probably be very active, but I want to spend more time shooting, more time coaching. I want to consolidate a bit more, because now we've reached 100k mark. We've made it. We've proven it is viable. We've done a lot for the archery community. But in the end, there's more to do. I'll cover more topics, and who knows where I'll take the direction of the channel. So there's more to come. Thanks for joining for this very casual chat. I don't often talk about personal stuff on the channel, but special occasion is there's Ask Me Anything. There's more. I'm not like I said, I try to separate the channel from everything else, but there's a time and place for it. Again, thank you for joining me. It's been a very A very good pleasure to work with you, to speak with you, to share my thoughts and experiences with you. And it's been a good, 7 years on YouTube, 6 years on YouTube, I forget now. But it's been a good 100K. And again, I look forward to seeing you all again in 4 years' time when I get the 1 million K. Oh, I should unbox the silver plaque at some point. I'm waiting for the email from YouTube. Should come in a week, but I'll get that sent in to me, and maybe we'll do a live unboxing. How about that? What should I do? Like, but post your thoughts like in chat or in the comments below. I'm not gonna watch this in chat, but in the comments, should I unbox it live or should I film the video or something? I don't know. Like, what should I do with the plaque when it comes in? Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Good night for those in Australia. Hopefully, I'll see you all next time.